Hey everyone, Jeff Kanof back here. It is Friday at 4 o'clock on West Coast time here in the US. So perfect time for another tasting. So this is part of our Copperworks Distilling Live. We do every Friday at this time. So I'll give folks a little time to join up. Today we are doing a tasting like I've done in the past. But we are tasting the First Cut 2021 bottling. So it's a little bit of a different tasting than normal. This one is actually a program, which I'll go into in depth in a second here. It also happens to come with a bottle. So we'll talk about how that bottle tastes, how it was produced, but we'll also focus on talking about the program in general. For those of you who are new, we are a craft distillery on the Seattle waterfront. We specialize in American Single Malt Whiskey. We also make vodka and gins. We're founded by craft brewers, so everything we do starts from malted barley, essentially a high-quality brewing process that we then distill into our spirits. So let's get into this. So like I mentioned just a second ago, we're going to be talking about the First Cut program. So this is a program we do every year. This is our third year of it. Basically, it's kind of our take on, how wine clubs operate. We're a little bit different than wineries because we don't have sort of the typical harvest date and typical release dates. We do a lot of innovation, especially with our single malt whiskey and our cask gin program. So we'd like to have kind of a way for people to get access to that. We have a lot of people they ask. They say, hey, I wanted to get this bottle, but it was sold out. How can I get on a special list where I can get those bottles? So that's why we created the First Cut program. So what it is it's $120 and you get a 7-day early access email to any product we release. And so you might be thinking, $120, I don't know, that might be a little steep for just early access to products. But the thing that's really cool about it is it comes with an exclusive bottle to kick you off. So with that $120, you get a single cask strength bottling that is exclusive to the program. So the only way anyone can ever get this bottle is if they join the First Cut program. So this is not a release number. So those of you who have followed us, every release of whiskey has a number in the bottom right corner of the bottle. This one actually doesn't. It's the only product we make that has, no release because it's not really a public release. It's only part of this First Cut program. So just to reiterate that, so if you pay $120, you get into this program, you get that exclusive bottle of whiskey, which I'm going to talk about a lot on this session, and you get an email 1 week before anybody in the public does. You can order online, you can pick up the product at the distillery. Honestly, you can even come in, when we're open post-COVID, you can come in and taste the products early. So you can be kind of the cool person coming in and saying, hey, I'm part of the First Cut. Can I try a little bit about that product that's coming out next week? Everyone's going to look at you like, you're kind of special, which can be kind of fun. We think it's fun, at least. So the cool thing about this program is it really doesn't commit you to any purchases in the future. It just gives you that opportunity. So we're not trying to lock you in. We're not going to auto charge your credit card. Basically, you get that one bottle, which you're obviously committing to. But then the other bottles you buy if you like them. So if you see a release that you love, you can buy them early before anyone else. If you see one you're not so thrilled about, you can skip that one. So we're not locking you into getting automatically charged, automatically shipped, which I think is pretty cool because it kind of gives you access to what you want and no access to what you don't want. So also important to know, we are December 18th right now. Definitely can still place orders on our online store. Pickup's a great option, obviously, if you're local. If you're not so local, we will still be able to get your products to you, hopefully before the 25th. In a lot of cases, the cutoff for FedEx has ended, so we can't guarantee that. That said, if you did want to buy this program as a gift, we can deliver an email that explains the program to the recipient, and then they'll get their bottle whenever that package arrives. So it is a really good option if you're thinking last minute and you're like, I didn't get anything for a whiskey-loving person or a gin-loving person. We can kind of help you out with last-minute gifts, get that message out to them. So with that all said, let's kind of jump into the bottle. So you kind of have learned a little bit about the program we're offering, and we'll tell you a little bit more about the bottle that's included in that. So it's the First Cut. It's going to look a little backwards here. Notice no release number. So let's get in on this. This is the third one we've done. So it's the First Cut 2021. Every year is a different bottling. Usually just over 100 bottles available. So this bottling is from cask number 61. So I mentioned it's always a single cask. We always do it at cask strength. This bottling from this cask number 61 has actually broken a couple of records for us. So first off, it is, I'm just going to read to make sure I have the exact number, 131.3 proof. So that's the highest strength bottling we've ever done. And part of the reason why it is such high strength is this is also the most mature bottling we've ever done. So this one was 68 months, so it was almost 6 years in the barrel. And so if those aren't interesting enough things, another thing that's really interesting about this barrel is a pretty unusual barrel. So it is new oak, so you might say, okay, well that sounds kind of normal. But what's really cool about this is it's actually made from both French and American oak. So it's what we call a hybrid barrel. So there's wood in this barrel that is from both American oak and French oak. So you're going to get a lot of depth of flavor. Yes, you're going to get some of that, interesting stuff from the French oak, which is a little typically more interesting spice and potpourri kind of notes. And then you're going to get those American oak notes that can present themselves more as vanilla, sometimes some mango, coconut, some dill notes to it. So you're getting all of that in one single barrel, which is pretty unusual. It's definitely a bit lighter. It has a lighter char on the wood than a typical whiskey barrel would have. So even with 6 years, you might be able to tell from the screen, it's a little bit lighter than some of our standard releases. And that's why we could go a little bit longer in the barrel. So that's why this one ended up being 68 months. So this is a cool barrel. We've used it a little bit in our blending workshop. So those of you who aren't familiar with that, that's a session we do where you get to come in, you taste from 4 barrels, and then you can blend your own custom bottle. So you can say, oh, I want 50% of this, 25% of this, 25% of the other, put that in a bottle. Unfortunately, we're not offering those during the coronavirus pandemic, but we will have those again. So keep that in mind. It's a really fun session for those of you who are local. We've also had people fly in for those because it is kind of a fun thing to plan a trip around. So keep those in mind. We'll be offering those in the future for sure. So this barrel has been part of one of those sessions. So some people that may have been to that session might be like, oh, I recognize that number 61. But now we've actually released it as this first cut program. So getting into it, you're getting a lot of nuttiness on the nose. I think of it as kind of like warmed nuts. Also a lot of lemon. Most of our whiskey tends to be more kind of orange in nature, but this one gives me a lot more lemon. A lot of tropical fruit too. I'm going to get into the palate a little bit here. And this is quite strong, so I'll probably add some water to it in a second. Oh yeah, a lot of tropical fruit on the palate. Of course, I've tasted it many times, but you always get something new each time. I get a lot of fruit punch and like kind of sangria on this one, which is really distinctive, something that we haven't gotten in many other barrels. So that's one thing that really makes this stand apart. A lot of, like those kind of sweetened fruit notes. It does have a fair amount of wood, and it's kind of more like a fresh wood, not kind of that char note that you can get on some typical American whiskeys. And then you get like a grassy note, kind of almost like a funkiness, but like kind of a positive funkiness like you would on a Brett beer, for example, where you get kind of that like barnyard kind of note, almost verging on musty, but not totally with that kind of old note to it. So really interesting. I'm definitely going to add some water because like I said, if you're just joining up, this is a single cask. It's 131.3 proof, so it's quite strong. So I'm going to add a few dashes. If you can get your hands on some of these, they're really nice to add water to your whiskey. If you can't, a straw can be a really good substitution. You just kind of put your finger on top of a straw, drop some in. Obviously, you can just pour water in as well, but it's nice to have a little more control. By the way, drop any questions you have in either the comments or use the question tool. Yeah, it sweetens up a lot. It's quite drinkable at 131, surprisingly, but I think it's even better when you add a little bit of water because it is quite a punch at the full cask strength. So you're not going to want to drink a substantial amount. But once you add that water, it really opens up, sweetens up a little bit. You get less of the heat, so you can actually taste more of that fruitiness that I was mentioning earlier. I'm actually going to go ahead and add a little bit more. So this is, again, for those just joining, this is the First Cut 2021. So it's our subscription program. $120 gets you early access to every product we release throughout the year. And you get this single cask strength barrel, or bottle rather. Like I mentioned, this is French and New American oak. It is distilled from our 5 malt recipe, which is like a Scotch ale. and then it's 68 months in the barrel, bottled at 131 proof. So there's a lot going on. It's a really fun, interesting barrel. As you heard from my tasting notes, kind of that nuttiness, the lemon, the tropical fruit, sangria, fruit punch, a little bit of kind of grassiness to it. Very out of character for our quote-unquote standard releases. That's why we wanted to do it for something special like the first cut. Yeah, so and then just to kind of talk about, you might wonder, hey, the bottle sounds good, the program sounds good. What releases are we going to see? We can't say exactly what's going to come out, but we do know there will be probably at least 2 single cask whiskeys next year, most likely 3 or 4 special cask gins, and then probably a special like cask finished whiskey as well. So I'd probably say we'll probably have 9 to 12 releases in 2021. So we'll give you access to some really interesting, cool products and kind of bragging rights that you get to taste them and buy them before other people. So hopefully some of you already have your hands on this. We did release this Saturday, so almost a week ago. Hopefully you were able to taste along a little bit, but if you can't, obviously this will be posted here on Instagram. We'll also be posting all these on YouTube channel. Definitely think of us for your holiday shopping. We greatly appreciate it. We have this available, obviously, which we've been talking about the whole time. We also have 3 whiskey releases currently available, which is relatively uncommon. If you do follow us, you know that we typically only have 1 at a time. So right now we have a release 31, which is our quote standard release, really heavy on the new oak flavors, vanilla, caramel, that kind of flavor profile. We have release 33, which is a single Fino sherry cask. So that's going to be focused obviously on the sherried whiskey flavor. And then we have our brand new release 34, which is a Washington peated whiskey. So that's a peated whiskey, not just made in Washington, but actually using peat that was harvested from Washington State and malted here in the state of Washington. So that's a really special product that we just released. So all 3 of those are available. Also our vodka, our gin, our cask finished gin. Like I said earlier, if you do order now, there's a pretty good chance you'll get it before the 25th. Especially if you're within a certain radius of us. Obviously we have pickup next week, so if you do live in the area, you can come pick things up. We appreciate any support you can give us at this time of year. We're going to take a couple weeks off of the Copperworks Distilling Live because next Friday is Christmas. Friday after that is New Year's. So look for us back on January 8th. I think Jason will be diving deep into another production detail or kind of something relating to our process. So cheers, everybody. Happy holidays. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch you next time. Cheers.